Today is going to feel like a repeat from yesterday. We're still on dilations, and since yesterday we focused on the ordered pairs, that's why it's going to feel like a repeat for today. But let's go ahead and review what we learned yesterday. We talked about scale factor, the fact that a scale factor that's greater than 0 but less than 1 causes it to shrink. A scale factor that is 1 makes it stay the same. A scale factor that is greater than 1 makes it grow, and kids always wonder, what if it's negative? Well, that would make it shrink or grow depending on the size of the value and cause a 180-degree rotation because everything would be the opposite sign. All right, remember, whenever we do this, we multiply each ordered pair by the scale factor that they give us. So whenever I do this dilation, my scale factor is a half. What I'm going to do is multiply each x and y by 1/2, get those ordered pairs, and then graph them. So -2 times a half is -1. Anything times 0 is 0. Again, anything times 0 is 0. 1 times a half is 1/2. 2 times a half is 1, and -1 times a half is -1/2. So now I go ahead and graph this. G prime would be at -1, 0. So there's that one. H prime is at 0, 1/2. Here's H prime. And I prime is at 1, -1/2. So right here is I prime. So go ahead and draw those sides, and I have my dilation. All right, let's do a dilation of 1/2. That means I'm going to multiply everything this time by 1/2. So -1 times 1/2 is -1.5, and this one also would be -1.5. Anything times 0 is 0. All right, 2 times 1/2 is 3. And then over here, anything times 1 is itself, so these both become just 1/2 because 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. And then on this one, you don't have to graph it because we're just focused on ordered pairs today. And now let's review how to figure out what the scale factor is. We know it was a dilation. So remember, we're asking ourselves, like, we're going to focus on the x values for u. What times -1 ended up equaling -1/2? Well, for that what, I'm going to use s for my variable that represents scale factor. So -1 was multiplied by the scale factor, and that turned out to be -1.5. So this is a multiplication one-step equation. To solve it, I want to divide by the coefficient, divide by -1, and I'll find out what the scale factor was. The scale factor is -1/2 divided by -1. The signs cancel out, and it's just 1.5. So this was a dilation of a scale factor of 1.5. I could confirm it by checking other points. I could ask myself, is 1.5 times that -2 give me -3? Well, yes, the sign would be negative. Now let's do the math. And yes, we get 3.0 or 3, -3. So my scale factor of 1/2 definitely works and is reasonable.